Speak.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker and colleagues. It's an absolute pleasure to be able to give my maiden speech in this debate and to follow the excellent contributions from, just to mention a few names, the Honourable Members for Wigan Goole, Leeds North East and Preseli Pembrokeshire. May I also congratulate my honourable friend, the member for Bassett Law, on a fantastic maiden speech as well. To use the first line from the well-known poem, Albert and the Lion, there's a famous seaside place called Blackpool. If anyone in this house is unaware of the poem, it doesn't end well at all for Albert and his parents. They visit the zoo, and Albert ends up being eaten by a ferocious lion named Wallace. Now, despite this rather unfortunate end to the poem, I can assure you, Madam Deputy Speaker, that Blackpool is in fact a fantastic place to visit. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank its residents for putting their trust in me to serve as their Member of Parliament. I will not let them down. May I also thank my parents, who are in the gallery this afternoon, for their support in getting me here, and the Honourable Member for Calder Valley for his fantastic and wise counsel and guidance over the last 10 years as well. Before I talk more about the town, I would like to mention my predecessor, Gordon Marsden, who served Blackpool South well for 22 years and was ever courteous when our paths crossed. This turned out to be more often than I expected during the election campaign because I inadvertently moved in next door. Gordon held a number of shadow ministerial portfolios, but as a former teacher myself, I pay particular recognition to his contribution as Shadow Minister for Higher Education. He also chaired the APPG for Veterans, a cause that is close to my heart and one which I will support during my time in this House as well. I'm lucky to represent Blackpool, a town steeped in history and with far too much heritage to fit in this speech. Famous for the confectionery Blackpool Rock, I welcomed my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, during the election campaign to assist in making a special Back Boris version of the rock. Now, we were grateful to be offered a job, should all go wrong on the 12th of December, but fortunately, for the company at least, this hasn't been necessary. I'm sure, however, there are some leftovers for my honourable friends, and if, like George Formby, you take your stick of rock for a stroll down the promenade, you will see many of the great tourist attractions of Blackpool. We have the world's oldest, largest electric tramline in use today, 3 working piers, and the illuminations which are at the forefront of technology, only using green energy to power their over 1 million light bulbs. Of course, you would also see Blackpool Tower, which is synonymous with the town. It celebrated its 125th anniversary last year, and at the time of building was the tallest structure in Britain. At 518 feet tall, you can see blue skies and now blue constituencies for miles and miles around. In its base, it contains a must-see circus with the brilliant clown Mookie, definitely something to go and see if you're in Blackpool, and the Tower Ballroom. Many of you will have seen this great venue on the special episode of Strictly Come Dancing each year. Now, although I have to confess I'm not particularly much of a dancer myself, I would welcome the Right Honourable Member for Maidenhead to come and join me for a few lessons, if she would so wish. Stepping back from the seafront slightly, Blackpool is also home to the Winter Gardens. Some of my honourable friends on this side will remember this as the rightful home of the Conservative Party complex. I hope to see it return one day, particularly as a multi-million-pound investment in a new conference centre facility will provide us with outstanding facilities which are second to none. After several rollercoaster years in politics, it would be remiss of me not to mention our very own theme park, the Pleasure Beach. Over 5 million people each year flock to be thrilled on the many roller coasters in the Pleasure Beach, and it actually has more roller coasters than any other park in the UK, and has also won many more awards than other theme parks too. Owned and run by the same family since its opening, they continue to invest and develop the park, an approach that is typical of our strong enterprise culture here in Blackpool. The thousands of hotels, shops and pubs, which are the economic backbone of my constituency, are built on the values of hard work and self-reliance. These values are epitomised by Chris Higgetts, the owner of an arcade who works 16 hours a day, 7 days a week during the 8-month holiday season. He prides himself, Madam Deputy Speaker, on working hard for his family so that he doesn't have to rely on the government for support. With these values, it probably isn't surprising that Chris shares my admiration for one of our greatest ever Prime Ministers, Baroness Thatcher. Our mission as a government has to be to support businesses like Chris to ensure that innovation, talent and effort are always rewarded. The people of Blackpool are proud of our great country, our history, traditions and our monarchy, and they share my desire to be a truly independent country once again. Many of my constituents voted to leave the EU, not just because of the fantastic opportunities which it presents, but also because they were unhappy with the status quo. People in Blackpool and towns across the north feel left behind by the pace of economic and social change in recent decades. And as a government, our challenge must now be to address this through investment in our ageing northern infrastructure and creating an environment in which enterprise can flourish. When we leave the EU, we will emerge into a world that is crying out for leadership, and our country is uniquely placed to provide that. We must work with our allies to promote free trade and our shared values of democracy, freedom and liberty around the world. Few relationships are more important in supporting us to achieve this aim than the strong bond we have with the State of Israel. We can be rightly proud of the UK's role in creating a homeland for the Jewish people, and it is more important than ever that we reassert our commitment to Israel's security, its right to defend itself and its right to exist. The relationship between our nations is built not only on trade, research and security, but on our shared values. Indeed, it is Israel's commitment to freedom, religious tolerance and equality which distinguishes itself from its neighbours and which its enemies in the Middle East want to eradicate from the region. Sadly, that is not the only thing that Israel's enemies want to eradicate. Terrorist organisations such as Hamas and Hezbollah continue to peddle anti-Semitic propaganda, and in many ways it is Israel's Jewish identity which makes it so vulnerable. But it is not just groups in the Middle East, or indeed those who deny Israel's right to exist, who hold such vile views. Anti-Semitic incidents are on the rise across Western Europe and here in the UK, and it is appalling that an anti-Semitic element has crept back into our politics. Anti-Semitism should have no place in politics nor in the world, and I know that all honourable members in this chamber will join me in taking a stand against it. It is within this context that we are having this debate regarding Holocaust Memorial Day. Education is a vital tool in the fight against anti-Semitism, and it is imperative that the lessons of the Holocaust are not forgotten. The new National Holocaust Memorial and Learning Centre is welcome and will both act as a lasting tribute to the victims and help to challenge anti-Semitism. It is vital that we take a lead and use our roles as honourable members, not just in this House, but within all of our communities, to tackle this prejudice and to ensure that history does not repeat itself.
Carolyn Harris.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And may I say congratulations to the Honourable Gentleman for Blackpool South on an excellent maiden speech and a venue that all South Walians have made the annual pilgrimage to see the lights. Thank you, Blackpool. I stand today and I'm honoured to have witnessed and sat next to my honourable friend for Leeds North East, whose testimony and speech was mesmerising and truly humbling. And I deeply congratulate him on that. And it's a privilege for me to be able to take this opportunity each year to remember and pay my respects to those who were lost, and particularly this year as we mark the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz and the 25th anniversary of the genocide in Bosnia. And those who experienced those atrocities reduce in numbers, it is more important than ever that we continue to remember this day and talk about their stories and experiences, and to honour those who lost their lives, so that generations to come never